Hello and welcome back to the Bookshelf Odyssey Podcast. My name is Art, and today we're starting a new season, sort of. I meant to have this interview out a little bit earlier than I got it out, but it seems like it's been my ongoing excuse that my life has been completely off the rails, but it has been completely off the rails. And so you might have noticed that behind me there is nothing, blank walls, empty bookshelf, just a really terrible background to do a podcast with. We're having some changes in our family, and we bought a new house. Well, it's actually an old house, but it's a beautiful house from, I think it was built in like the 1890s. And I'm really excited to get a chance to finally own my own home. What that means is we have to move, which means packing up about 1 million books and lots of other stuff that we own. And I was telling my wife that as we were packing countless books, that this really is making me want to switch to straight ebooks, but I haven't gone that completely off the rails yet. I do like both. That's not the issue, but it's just when it comes to moving tangible books can be a challenge. But anyway, I digress. I've got a great guest for you today. I'll talk about her and her book in the interview. A really wonderful story. I finished it after I had interviewed her, and just a great fantasy novel. If that's a genre you like, I think you'll especially love this story. But just a couple of quick updates on my channel, on the podcast, things going forward here. So as I said, I'm moving, and I am not sure what my video schedule will look like between now and say like a month or two. I have some videos already pre-recorded. I've been trying to find time to edit, but that takes time, and so does moving. So there might be some delays, and my channel might go quiet for a couple weeks. I hope not, but if you happen to see that, that's what's going on. I am planning to pick up the podcast again. This episode was supposed to be the start of a new season, but then I had to cancel some interviews and things because of all the busyness, and but I wanted to make sure that I got this episode out at least, because I am so grateful for the author taking her time to chat with me, and I wanted to let you know about a wonderful new writer to me, and a really exciting story. So with that being said, make sure you're still subscribed, all that, so when I can get my normal production revved up, that you won't miss any upcoming interviews or videos on my booktube channel. Also, as I've announced on my YouTube channel, I'm doing a read-along starting in April with of Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. That is my last Gaskell novel I haven't read, so I wanted to open that up to the community to read together. I will probably have a video out, if not already, very soon, outlining what that's going to look like, and hopefully by April we'll be moved in. I should be able to focus on reading that novel with the community. I'll have a Discord channel set up. We can chat there, and I'm really hoping I can make some videos talking about my reading journey of Wives and Daughters. I don't know what things will look like in our new house. I'll probably have a new job as well. Different things like that. So yeah, a lot of changes in my family's life. Good changes, good things, all good things. But it's just very, very busy right now with everything. So with that, if you can tell me if there's a job where I could get paid to read books, that would be ideal. Okay. All right. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump over to the interview I recorded, and we'll find out all about this new exciting novel. My guest today is M.T. Solomon, and she's the author of the recent publication Liar Queen, as well as a couple other fantasy novels. And I just started reading Liar Queen the other day, and to be honest, I can't put it down. It's been real it's been great. So I'm looking forward to talking to the author and get to know about her and her journey to becoming a writer. And so welcome to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I've been looking forward to this. Longtime listeners of my podcast and YouTube channel, they'll know that fantasy is a genre that I want to like, but sometimes I struggle to get into it. But I knew right away in your book that this was one I was going to enjoy, and that has been true. Yeah. Before we get to all of that, though, I like to find out what kind of a reader my guests are, and see if we can't recommend some books, talk about some of your favorite writers and the stories that influenced you to be creative. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and a little bit about what you like to read.
So I write sci-fi fantasy, so I read a lot of sci-fi fantasy. I love Margaret Atwood. She really got me into the dystopian sort of mindset with A Handmaid's Tale. I actually read it in 5th grade, which I should not have. It's a bit advanced for a 5th grader.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It stuck with me, so I read a lot of her other books. I took a class about her in college. I'm obsessed with just the masterful way she can put words together and tell a story that might seem a little bizarre underneath the surface, but it's still a great story. So I love Margaret Atwood. I read everything of hers. But I also read outside of those genres, and I like to read memoirs, biographies, particularly about powerful women in history. It's great for character building, I find. So I've read books on Frida Kahlo, the Romanov sisters, things like that. I really love a good memoir, actually. You learn things about history and context, and then you also get some really good character building tips that way, too.
I read The Handmaid's Tale for the first time a couple years ago, 2 years ago or so. I haven't watched the show or anything, but I was curious about it mostly, and that is a powerful story. Yeah.
Imagine being a 5th grader reading that. I was like, I don't understand. I mean, I read advanced, so I understood what I was reading, but as far as like the context and the underneath the political issues, I was not. So I reread it again when I was in college, and then it made a lot more sense.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. And I have read a couple of biographies recently. I don't know if you like classics at all, like Victorian classics, or have you read any of those? But yeah. I really enjoy all of the Brontes, their writing, and there's one about Anne Bronte called I think it's called Be Courageous. I'll have to get the title for sure, but basically the author of that story writes about Anne Bronte and her process of learning about her. So she kind of inserts herself into the story, and it was just a really moving biography, exploring the writing process, creativity, all that Anne Bronte meant to her as a writer, and it was very good.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, I'll have to, and I can't remember the author's name either. No, I'm really well prepared today.
That's okay.
It was good. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. And then there was one called I think it was called the Lady from the Black Lagoon, and it was a biography of the lady who designed the character of the creature of the Black Lagoon. I didn't realize it was a lady who had designed it. And the author is one of the hosts of the podcast Reading Glasses, Mallory O'Mara. There we go. And that's a really fascinating look at Hollywood, in the 1950s. This woman who created and designed this creature and barely gets any credit for it today. Good story. It might be something you'd be interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, I read there was a biography about Rosemary Kennedy, so in that same 60s time frame, and just understanding the U.S. at that time is just a very interesting time in our history. Yeah,
for sure. Well, don't want to get too far off into the political realm, but
no, it's okay.
I was reading some things about just things like how even interracial marriage wasn't allowed until, what was it, like 1970s or something, 1960s, and to realize that's not that long ago. Yeah. Yeah. It kind of wakes you up when you realize, are we still seeing some of the effects of that today, and how that still affects us? And
well, I'm in Alaska, and there's things that, I mean, we haven't been a state for that long, really. And my parents lived here in the 70s when there was barely any infrastructure here. So there's things here that I can say, like, that's not actually that old. We haven't moved away from that long in a timeline, really.
Yeah. Now, remember, you live in a pretty rural area from what I've read online. Is that right?
Yes, it's rural for sure. I mean, there's a road I can get to grocery stores. I'm not like in a village, but yes, very rural.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that play into your creativity at all? Or do you want to write about big cities? Just to...
No, I actually, growing up here, I grew up in the house I live in right now. We bought my parents' house. And just knowing that I played in the woods around here. I mean, I actually had woods. I had forests to play in. I could just go and not encounter another person. That's changed a bit. I mean, it has built up. We have more neighbors now and stuff like that. But just having that wildness around me definitely influences my world building. In Liar Queen, a lot of the world building you see, a lot of the like plants that get mentioned and stuff are things you find here in the mountains. So that influences the texture of my world a lot, because I'm submerged in it up here. It's so, like, the mountains are huge, the forests are huge, the animals are ginormous, It definitely influences how I perceive a wild fantasy world.
I just saw a video recently of, as I doom scroll through Facebook and YouTube, but it was a guy seeing a moose in the wild for the first time, and how giant this moose was. I'm like, oh my goodness.
They're big. They are big. They really are. Even the babies are big. They're not tiny at all. Yeah, and I have 3 kids, so teaching them, like, you need to go outside and play. Oh, but be mindful of the giant creature that also lives outside.
Right.
It's kind of a weird thing. Like, you want them to go play outside, but there really are things out there that could hurt them. So right. I don't know. It's just a weird place to live.
Yep. I remember my kids when they were younger. I had them. It was winter, so they went outside. Just guys, go outside, just get some fresh air. And then we heard them laughing and weird noise and all this. And we go out. I go out and look, and there had been an ice storm, so they were taking their sled, sliding down the driveway into the street and across the street into the ditch of the neighbor's yard. And and we don't have a heavy traffic area, but there's enough cars that go by, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Don't do that. But it sure looks like fun.
Yes, but sledding is fun.
Yeah. So you probably see snow a little bit here and there, huh?
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah. I love hearing about the books and things that inspire people to read and to be creative. So when did in your process, when did you know you wanted to be a writer? From what I read, it was quite early. You were already writing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so when I was in kindergarten, I learned to actually write. I started writing down family stories, histories, those stories that every family has, that they, the grandparents say it over and over again. You could probably repeat it word for word. I took those stories and I wrote them down. I just felt like I wanted to have a book in my hands with them in it. I don't have that book anymore, but I made a lot more books by hand as elementary school went on. I was obsessed with the 3 Little Pigs for a while, so I have like the 3 Little Pumpkins, the 3 Little Ghosts. I still have those books in my closet, actually. And then in 5th grade, we actually did a publication unit in class. So we had to write a short story, have our peers edit it, rewrite it, illustrate it. We hand stitched the binding. We laminated the cover. Like I still have that book. It's a legit book in my on my bookshelf. And that kind of got me hooked. I really liked having the physical item in my hand of a story that I created, that I worked on. It was kind of a big payoff for me to actually have it. So I just loved writing stories. I was a quiet kid. I liked reading. I spent a lot of time just making up stories in my head. So it kind of just went hand in hand. Once I had that book in my hand, I thought this is what I want to do. But it kind of took me a while to get to the point where I actually started publishing. I had to go to college, and I was more interested in other people's works in college. I took every single woman's lit class you could think of at Portland State. And I loved it, but I didn't think that I could do it myself. I just loved the stories the women told, and how they could convey their experiences across things like Irish history, South African apartheid, Victorian history, things like that. And then after I had my kids, I started a writing group. And one of my friends, Nova McBee, she's a young adult thriller author. She's fantastic. She had already gotten an agent, and she was starting to publish her novel. And she said, "No, this is doable. You can do this. Your work is great. Let's take some baby steps. Let's get you moving forward." And so she really helped me see that this is something that I could actually do. It wasn't just some pipe dream. And I think having my kids as well really pushed me, because I'm telling my kids, like, you can do it. Follow your dreams. You're capable of this. And then I was looking at myself going, if I don't do that, am I really being a good example for them? So then I decided, all right, I'm going to pursue my publication dream. I'm going to actually write and be a writer, because I want them to see me pursuing my dreams so that they'll pursue theirs.
Yeah. Now, do your kids read your books at all, or do they not?
No, they're actually, I have a 7, a 9, and a 12-year-old, so they're a little young.
A little young, yeah.
I don't anticipate them reading the 3 books I have published right now, just because they're more romantasy leaning fantasy. But I have some book ideas that I think they may eventually. My middle son is an advanced reader like I was. He's already writing his own book. He's very much like me, so I anticipate him. I talk plot with him sometimes about silly things like that. And then my youngest son is, a mommy's boy, so he just wants to talk to mom all the time about how great I am, which is fantastic when I need it. So he always has suggestions for my books as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a challenge when you need some peace and quiet, to write or something. But
yes.
Yeah. Where do you find time to write? How do you work that into your schedule?
I usually do it in the morning after everybody goes to school and goes to work, which is a pretty big chunk of the day. Last week, everybody was sick, so no one left during the week. So I was pretty stressed about getting words on the page. But everyone's healthy now, so everyone's back to going to work and going to school. I usually get a few hours in the morning where I get it done.
You just had a new story out February 5th, The Liar Queen. What can you tell us about that book?
So Liar Queen is about a woman who lives in a kingdom where, in order to be crowned queen, you have to survive. You have to fight your sibling for the right to win and be queen. And then Mara, our main character, she won, but actually she allowed her sister to survive, and that comes back to haunt her throughout the story. Her mercy becomes her biggest regret, actually. So it's about her overcoming that deception she caused, but also trying to figure out who she is and how she wants to rule.
I honestly was hooked from the first sentence. Just it brought you right into the story, and okay, where are we going with this? What's going on? And in the first chapter, especially, just getting the story introduced, and the prince from the other kingdom shows up, and you already get all the intrigue. What is he here for? What's going on? And then by the end of the first chapter, dropping the bomb about, hey, your sister might be alive still. It's like, whoa, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how this all works itself out. Yeah.
I've gotten reviews that say that the character arc of Mara, her growth over the book is really, at first they don't like her, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not liking the main character for a bit, but over time they realize, like, oh, I want to root for her. I want her to get what she wants. And so I'm really pleased with that, because I was really intentional with how I wrote Mara. I wanted her to be unlikable at first, which I know isn't normally what authors want their characters to be, but I wanted people to question why we were rooting for her, because I wanted her growth over the novel to earn that cheerleader in the reader. I wanted to earn it, and I think I've done a good job.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Although I kind of liked her right off the bat, because there's early on, there's this just a line she thought to herself as she was talking to the prince about how she just wished she could go back to her room. And I'm like, man, I feel you.
Yes.
I just want to go back to my room, read a book, I don't want to have to deal with life, but I don't know. It's just some would call it just a throwaway line, but I'm like, yep, I get you. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're inspired by the world around you, by the place you grew up. You weave that into your stories. How do you go about that? What do you look for when you're setting out to write a story and you're wanting to bring in some real life elements to it?
So I try and put myself in the scene physically. I try to think about, okay, what actually is in this room that I'm writing the scene in, or in this area that I'm writing the scene in. And then I try and think about myself if I've been in situations that are similar, so that I can draw directly from memory. Or if I haven't been, trying to just really put myself in that thought of, okay, what do I see? What do I feel, either internally or externally? What do I smell? What do I hear? Just so I can really submerge myself in the scene, so that when I write it, it comes out on the page too.
And of course, living in a place as beautiful as Alaska, I would struggle to not be able to come up with some kind of inspiration, looking out the window even. Yeah. I've never been to Alaska. My grandparents, one of my grandparents, they used to live there, in Anchorage. He was in the Navy, so they were stationed there for a few years, and he had always had pictures. He had tons of pictures, and like, oh, I need to go someday.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's I coach volleyball, so I also get the opportunity to travel to places that lots of people don't normally travel, that are off the road system. So we've been to Bethel, which is a village that you can only get to by plane. We're going to Nome this coming season, so where the Iditarod ends. But you have to fly there. Like it's a huge state, and there's lots of areas that some people, they could live their whole lives and they don't actually get to explore.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list to get there one day. So I'm gonna have to get the kids out of the house first, I think. They're expensive.
They are expensive. They make everything more expensive.
Yeah, totally worth it though. In case my kids are watching.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Right. So on your writing journey, what have been some joys and some challenges that you've faced?
So joys, definitely just having the actual book in my hand, especially after going through the process of formatting, which is a drain on everybody's energy, and editing and things like that. Like actually having the book in your hands and seeing that complete product is fantastic. It brings back that feeling I had in 5th grade when I held my book in my hand. Struggles are, there's the issue with AI that's happening right now in the publishing world. Just cost in general. If I'm self-publishing, the cost of doing everything myself. I live in Alaska, so going to events is a bit of a struggle because I have to fly out. The events in Alaska are very limited. So getting out and meeting people can be difficult for me. That's why social media is so important. But things like that, dealing with imposter syndrome is, I think, a lifelong issue that many authors have, no matter how successful they become. Things like that I'm struggling with, but working through every day. Every day's a new day. I can deal with it.
Right. And some of those challenges, obviously technology can help with. But then with AI, you don't want it to help too much, No. Right. Yeah, that's I'm hearing a lot of worries and concern about that, and it's going to be one of those things. It is what it is, I guess, but nothing can compare to a story written by a person. I don't think,
no.
You get there's a soul about it that
Yeah.
AI can miss for obvious reasons.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like it's the human in us really comes through in written word. So it's lacking when AI tries to do anything.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that is utilized going forward, or how this will all end up. And who knows, the computers might just rise up and take over all of us anyway.
Yeah. There's always that.
There's that. Yeah. 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 So what have been some words of advice or things you've learned on your journey that you would share with writers who are wanting to either start out or encourage them to keep going?
So my biggest thing that I always tell everyone is to finish the first draft. And I know that's like a cliched suggestion, but it's really true. If you don't have the words on the page, you can't make it better. You can't move forward and start editing and things like that. So you've got to get it on the page. But I've read somewhere that like, oh, don't go back and self-edit as you're working. But I tend to go back and at least read the scene I wrote before or the chapter I wrote before, just to get a sense of tone. Because sometimes when I'm writing, the tone of one story is a little different than another. So it kind of like gets the proper tone in my head when I start drafting more words. And then, just having an outline, having that scaffolding to work from is really helpful. You don't necessarily have to stick to it 100%. I have friends that outline like crazy and their outlines are almost as long as the finished novel. I'm not that person. I like to have scenes kind of like fleshed out a little bit, maybe some bullet points, and then I'm like, all right, I got it. And then that way I don't feel bad when I'm drafting and I realize I want to go a different direction with something. So that's my suggestion, is get the draft done, have a nice little outline. Don't feel like you have to write an entire book of an outline, because you don't. I mean, if that makes you comfortable, sure, but you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife is an English teacher, and that's what she'll say is just get words on paper, and then we'll figure out what to do with them if you don't like it. But just you have to have something to work with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. The hard part, I go back and forth on what the hard part would be, really. Once you get the words down, then you think, okay, is this genius? And then I got to edit it, It's perfect.
Yes.
What are you talking about? Yeah. For me, I think editing would be the harder part. It's like going back over it and trying to fix it and all that. But I have been surprised at things I've had to do and my wife will edit, and she's like, red ink all over the page, but then it's like, wow, this is really better. I didn't know I could write like that. This is good.
I find that editing is a relief, because I already have that. I already have it done. Like I know the draft is done, so I can work from that. It's not like I'm staring at a blank page still trying to get words down. So editing to me is a relief. It is a bit of a struggle when I have to send it to an editor or send it to an alpha or beta reader and have someone else look at it. That's when I have that imposter syndrome strikes, and I'm like, oh, it's not going to be any good. I shouldn't be doing this. But I get over that pretty quickly, and then I get, you have to learn how to take a critique, but also take a compliment, because sometimes you want to push the compliment away and say, no, it's terrible. But that's the hardest step, I think, not my self-editing, but when I start sending it to other people, then I have to really rein it in and be like, this is what writing's about. People have to read your book, right? Or does the book exist at all?
Yeah, I can remember writing some papers in college and thinking, when you get the first draft done, well, I got something to turn in at least.
Exactly.
There is a relief in that, it might be a mess, but I can at least turn it in if I don't get it edited. But yeah.
That's right. That's right.
You talked about imposter syndrome a couple of times. I probably a lot of people struggle with that, and not just writers, but in any field. Can you talk a little bit more about what you do to help get over it or work through it?
So for me specifically, my desire to write just overcomes that feeling of inadequacy. I just have this need. I have stories I have to tell. And so that just kind of overcomes it. And I just eventually say, okay, I'm just going to do it anyway. I started reading the Let Them Theory book, which has kind of been a bit helpful in realizing what I'm actually in control of, because I'm not in control of what other people think or do. I'm only in control of what I do. So that's really kind of lit a fire within me to say, yeah, I can. If I do it, I can do it. It's up to me. I'm not going to let other people's opinions or reviews get me down. I'm just going to keep working because that's what I'm in control of. I'm in control of putting the words on the page, so I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So much of this involves just doing the work, and going through the steps you need to take to get your goal accomplished. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One other thing too I wanted to ask about is I believe you're self-published and traditionally published. You've done both. Mm-hmm. What's that been like for you, and do you have a recommendation either way?
So I self-published my first two novels just because I was getting nowhere with querying agents. And I kind of just got tired. I didn't like the idea that I was being gatekept out of the community when I thought I had stories to tell. Mm-hmm. So I decided I would self-publish those. I wanted to understand the publishing industry anyways. I'm a huge self-learner. I like to learn everything I can about a subject. So I also saw it as an opportunity for me to educate myself on the process from start to finish. Mm-hmm. So I learned that there are a lot of steps and a lot of things that you don't even think about if you are traditionally published and someone else is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. I learned how to acquire an editor that fit my budget. I learned how to find a cover artist and go back and forth with them and work on what I wanted the artwork to look like. Formatting, I did myself, which was a labor of love. It was a lot of work, but I'm glad I learned how to do it. It makes me appreciate books more when I actually look at the book. Any book on a shelf, I actually have an appreciation for the layout of the page, which sounds really weird, but I know the work that goes into making that look perfect. So that was my experience. The marketing side is always tough, whether you're traditionally published or indie published, but it was a lot of work when it was just myself. But that it kicked in my desire to do it. I just had to do it myself. And then with traditionally published, Liar Queen just seemed like a book I really, really wanted to have some support behind. I stumbled upon my publisher on Instagram. They were brand new. They were two sisters who had just opened their publishing house and wanted Romantasy type books. And I went to their website and I really liked their biography. I liked their background. I liked what they stood for as far as stories to tell. So I rewrote my entire query letter and submitted Liar Queen to them, and they loved it and it worked out. And having them behind me has been helpful. They've done a lot of the heavy lifting as far as finding an editor, finding a cover designer, holding my hand when it comes to marketing and stuff like that. It's been really, really good to have that support. But in the same token, I've, given up some control. I don't have 100% say on the cover and things like that, but I'm still happy with it. It's not that I am not happy with it. It's just you end up giving up some of that control when you go traditionally published.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's the name of the company that you went through?
Golden Scales Publishing.
It's got to be validating too. Is finally, like, hey, I knew I had something good here.
Yeah, and to be their debut too is really an honor.
Right.
So that's really exciting too.
Now, what are your the other two books you've written, and what are you planning to write in the future?
So my other two books are a duology. So there's two books in that series, and All the Fragile Hearts is the first book, and it's kind of is the start of this rebellion, and then Whispers in the Dark is the second book, and it's 18 years later, and it's the end of the rebellion. Both books are dual point of view, but different point of view. So the first two people in the first book appear in the second book, but they're not the main characters. I kind of like when books overlap like that. They're not necessarily the same character story the entire way through, like Harry Potter or something, but you get that overlay. I think that's interesting to get more information on background characters that appeared in one book in a different book. So those are my first two books. And then Liar Queen is set up to be a trilogy. So I'm working on outlining and fleshing out the book 2 and book 3 of that. I also have a Gaslamp fantasy that I'm working on right now. I have tasked myself with finishing the first draft by the end of February so I can turn my full attention to book 2 and 3 of the Liar Queen series. But yeah, and then I have other books that I have outlined that I have stored away for the future. I have a sci-fi novel I really want to write, things like that. I have too many ideas basically, and I just try and keep track of them as best I can, and keep the flames going in each one until I can actually sit down and work on it.
Yeah, knowing now that Liar Queen is going to be a trilogy, is this ending going to leave me a cliffhanger here, or what? Or are you not going to say?
Very much
okay.
so.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I know now.
Yes. Prepare yourself.
Mentally prepare for that. Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was a series or standalone, but yeah. Okay. Good. Can't wait. So don't leave us hanging then.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then where can people find you online? Do you have a newsletter at all or a website?
I do.
Have a website, but,
Yeah, I have a website. So themtsolomon.com is my website. You can find a link to my Substack newsletter on there, and links to my Instagram and all that good stuff is on my website. It's a good hub to start from to find me.
All right, yeah. Information about your books and available wherever people will be happy to sell you something.
That's right.
Yeah. And again, thanks for coming on today. Really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm looking forward to reading more that you have coming out. So thanks for joining me today. Thanks for having me. It was fun. Yeah, definitely. For everyone else, head over to themtsolomon.com, right, and get some good books there. So, all right, thanks for joining.